In a world where the V8 engine is seemingly harder and harder to come by, they are deemed inefficient, they drink too much fuel, and they produce too many emissions, we have this 5-liter V8 Coyote engine from Ford in this F-150, and we're gonna put that notion to the test today with a good old fuel economy test, and I think we might just hurt some feelings along the way. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Alex, and like you heard, we're running a real-world fuel economy test on this 5-liter Coyote V8. If you're new to the channel, welcome. But I've said many times, this 5-liter V8 is my favorite current engine in the 1500 segment. One of the main reasons is just how darn efficient this V8 engine is. This 5-liter V8 is putting out 400 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque. Ideally today we're going to use as little of those ponies as possible. We're also using the truck with 331 gears, which is why the front end is just a little bit different, ideally giving us a really good fuel economy run as well. My fuel economy run consists of 85 miles. We do some city driving, country driving, as well as highway driving, ideally giving us a really nice combined fuel economy score. Now, critically, along the way of our loop, we will be comparing this 5-liter engine to the 3.4-liter Toyota Tundra twin turbocharged V6, 3.5-liter Ecoboost, as well as the 2.7-liter Ecoboost. All three of those engines were designed with one main thing in mind: fuel economy. So we're gonna see if this 5-liter can maybe embarrass a couple of those engines along the way. I'm excited to find out. The only way to find out, though, is to get this puppy on the road. We'll see you guys at the gas station. We are full of fuel. We reset our fuel mileage on the computer anyways. We'll put this thing into eco mode. And like we always do, we will actually do the real math afterwards, but it is always fun to see what the computer tells us. So let's get on the road. First up is our city driving section. I try and keep the truck right around 60 kilometers an hour as best as I can, obviously, and that is the beauty about the city. It's a little bit unpredictable, and well, oftentimes that's why fuel economy in the city is so poor, going stoplight to stoplight, sitting in traffic. You get the gist. And secondly, the reason why I wanted a 5-liter with 331 gears is because the Toyota Tundra had 331 gears. Same with the 3.5-liter EcoBoost we tested on this fuel economy loop. So it'll be a really, really nice comparison to those two engines. Also, all three of these trucks use a 10-speed transmission, again, making for a really, really nice comparison. So one major disadvantage of a bigger displacement V8 is that, well, when we're sitting in traffic, stoplights, idling away, when there's not much load under an engine, these smaller displacement turbocharged engines are just gonna be more fuel efficient because they have a smaller displacement. And when the engine is not under load, the turbos do not need to spool up. So naturally, that smaller displacement is just going to use much less fuel, where something like this 5-liter, in order just to idle it, you know, it has 5 liters of displacement. Those cylinders need to be filled with air and a specific fuel ratio. And so naturally, it's just gonna use more fuel idling away than those smaller displacement engines. It's not all bad news. This 5-liter has a couple tricks up its sleeve. This 5-liter comes with cam phasers, and I know that can be a little bit of a dirty word when it comes to these F-150s. Cam phasers have been known to fail on the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, but also on this 5-liter Coyote V8. Cam phasers, what they do is they actually can shift the camshafts, either advancing or retarding the timing of the engine using engine oil pressure. For example, being in eco mode, or when this truck really doesn't need that much power, the cam phasers can advance the engine timing, and this is gonna help save fuel economy. Now, if this engine needs a lot of power or we're towing, the cam phasers will actually retard the engine timing, and this helps get a lot more torque and power out of the engine. So despite cam phasers being a little bit problematic with these F-150s, it should help us on our fuel economy run, ideally giving us the maximum amount of fuel economy out of this 5-liter. So we are just leaving the city. We are averaging 22 miles per gallon, which is pretty good. Definitely better than the Toyota and probably the 3.5-liter EcoBoost. But now we are on to our country driving section. So we got our cruise control set at 90 kilometers an hour. We're sitting at like 1,300, 1,200 RPM. Looking pretty good. I think we're gonna see some pretty darn good fuel economy. I'm guessing like 24 miles per gallon, but we'll see what happens. Just another beautiful freaking day here in New Brunswick. And yeah, we are seeing our fuel mileage creep up here, 23.4 miles per gallon. Who knows where we're gonna finish? Again, this is the computer. We'll do the real math when we get back, but typically these F-150s are pretty darn on the money with their fuel economy computer on the truck, if you will. The last trick up this engine sleeve is cylinder deactivation. And again, a little bit of a dirty word in this truck segment because, well, we can look at the 5.7 HEMI with lifter problems. And don't even get me started on GM's cylinder deactivation with their lifter issues. But so far, Ford's cylinder deactivation has been somewhat successful, if I do say so myself. Ford was the last manufacturer to implement cylinder deactivation on their V8s starting in 2021 with the 3rd gen Coyote V8 engine in these F-150s. Rumor has it, at least what I read, is that Ford really did not need or want to put cylinder deactivation in these engines, but in order to meet government regulations, emission regulations, their hand was sort of forced and they kind of had to put this in to meet government regulation standards or emission standards. And so unfortunately, we end up with cylinder deactivation in these engines. These engines have been out for about 4 years now with cylinder deactivation, and we really haven't heard of any major issues with it, which is a good sign. Ford also completely designed the cylinder deactivation technology in-house, something that Ram and GM did not do. So got to give credit where credit is due. It seems like this cylinder deactivation technology, as much as I don't like it, seems to be holding up pretty well. Now, how much fuel does that cylinder deactivation actually save you? Well, according to Ford's chief engineer of the F-150, they said 1 to 2% fuel saving. So really, not that much. We are just about to finish our country run. We are sitting at 23.2 miles per gallon. But where I think this 5-liter V8 is going to shine is on the highway, especially in comparison to the turbocharged engines. Jumping onto the highway, we're gonna put the frickin' hammer down. Not really though. We're gonna gradually cruise on to our cruising speed of 70 miles an hour, which is, I believe, 112 kilometers an hour. The reason why I think this 5-liter is going to do well on the highway in comparison to those turbocharged engines is because, well, first of all, this stretch of highway is pretty hilly. And so with those turbocharged engines going up those hills at these speeds, those turbos are going to be feeding a lot of boost into the engine. And when you do that, you also need to feed a lot more fuel. This engine, being naturally aspirated, can rely a lot more on its simply larger displacement. And that should lead to a better performance on the highway. At least that's my prediction. We're just about finished our highway section, and I lied. We lost some fuel economy there. 21.6 miles per gallon is currently what we're sitting at. Obviously, according to the computer, I think we were facing a little bit of a headwind, but it's a real world test. What are you gonna do? We'll pull this thing off the highway, we'll head to the gas station, we'll fill it up, and we'll do some real math and see where this 5-liter engine sits. We'll see how much this truck takes. Why do I have a jack stand in there? You'll find out in the next video. All right, so that was the first pop. Count to 30 and then we'll go again. 2, 1. $15.14 liters. Well, this truck told us we had 21.6 miles per gallon of fuel economy. What did the actual number say? Well, 21 miles per gallon. Not too far off, I'll accept it. But maybe I was a little bit too enthusiastic about this 5-liter and its fuel economy. We did still beat the Toyota Tundra, but The 3.5 liter EcoBoost as well as the 2.7 liter EcoBoost did beat the 5 liter. It is interesting because on the highway alone, this engine beat the EcoBoost, but when you factor in some country driving as well as, more importantly, city driving, that is where those smaller displacement engines shine. And on this test, it proved to be true. No matter 21 miles per gallon out of a 5 liter V8, I'm gonna take it all day long. And that is some pretty darn good fuel economy. As always, guys, if you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And well, if you like cool stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe because we always got cool stuff planned with good old pickup trucks. Anyways, enough of me. We'll see you in the next freaking video.